Welcome back to Parent Squad. It's an inevitable part of parenting. Our kids grow up, and then before we know it, it's time for the college conversation. From which college to choose to how to pay for it all, there is a lot to consider on this journey. But here to help us is Bill Wozniak, the Vice President and CMO for INvestEd. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, this can be a big, daunting conversation in time of a parent's life and a kid's life too.
Oh, absolutely. So we get thousands and thousands of calls every single year. We speak across the state at high schools all over, and we get all the questions and all the feels as people are at different places of the discussion, and they're nervous and they're scared. And so what we try to do is help people sort it all out.
Yeah, kind of demystify it. So explaining what you do, you pretty much consult with parents and children to help them get to post-secondary education.
Correct. We're a nonprofit that was established back in the early 1980s, and now we work all across the state with over 300 high schools, putting on presentations, over 1,100 presentations every year, talking about how to prepare, how to plan, all the steps to take for how to get the most education with the least debt possible. And then we take phone calls and have individual meetings and all the rest, yes.
And he's here to help us. So we know this time of year, those college acceptances start coming in, and that can mean big decisions. So what's your advice do you have for parents and kids when you're choosing a school?
So we want you to do the most research possible. We want people to understand the majors that they're taking, the possible careers that are going to be from those majors. We want them to look at the college, and there's tools and there's information all out there where families and students can do the research, determine all the best options based on facts, data, evidence, as opposed to just maybe, well, the quad over there looks good, or that looks like a nice place to go to school. We want them to really have the information to make the best choices.
Yeah, it's kind of like you want the child to also take ownership of this process too, and understand how much of an investment it is. It's not just a fun place that we're going to go and do a lot of fun things.
That's right. And we talk ROI all the time, and education has so many levels to it for sure, but we talk about ROI. How much debt might I have to take on, and what does that profession pay on average? So you look at what is the cost for that particular student and family, and then what is the return on the other side? And there's other variables as well, but these are key to really look at and examine before you enter the entire process.
Absolutely. A business decision it is, families. Now, once the decision is made, the next part is how to pay for it. So this is one that gets parents a little squirmish, a little squeamish.
Yes, and so we share tools, free tools, completely free tools where people can go and they can look at the information and figure out what type of aid realistically can I expect at this school or this school. Really examine what is the aid going to be like, what are the different sources of that aid, so we get that cost of attendance down to the lowest net price. And you want that number to be as low as possible so that you limit the debt. And oftentimes people see schools that they didn't think they could go to that really come into play, or sometimes they see things might be a little more difficult, but it's better to know that early on so you can plan ahead.
Yes, having all the information so you can make the best decisions. Well, when we're talking about how to pay for college and post-secondary education, we got to talk about the FAFSA. A lot of people who might be a first-time college student might not even know what that is. So let's talk about it, the FAFSA and some other key deadlines or papers that they need to know about.
The acronym itself is Free Application for Federal Student Aid. But I don't like the name because it's not just federal student aid. It's for federal student aid, state of Indiana aid, which can be significant, and then also the aid from the college or university as well. So everything works off the FAFSA. It is the gateway to financial aid, almost every type of financial aid. So filing the FAFSA is step one for all different types of aid. That is the end-all, be-all, most important form. And we talk to families every year that say, I'm not going to file, I make too much, I'm not going to get aid. And they often forget about institutional aid, the money from the schools. Makes a major difference. Get the form filed, it's the most important form, and then let everything else play out and see where you stand afterwards.
Okay, don't count yourself out. We're talking to the expert, okay? And you say when it comes to award letters from schools, there are definitely things parents need to understand. What do you mean?
So when you look at different award letters, and there's tools and there's resources out there that help, with this, but the key point is oftentimes families look at the award letter, but they're not really clear on what is a loan, what is a grant, what's going to make up, how much portion of each, especially across a few different schools. And so we want them to look at it. Again, we take phone calls all the time where people either take a screenshot of it or they talk to us a little bit about it. But you really need to understand what is a loan, the plus. The people will see plus on an award letter thinking it's a grant. Well, that's the federal parent loan. And that's a loan, not a grant. And when people understand that, sometimes they know it, sometimes they don't. And so we really want them to understand each piece in that award letter that comes from the school.
Yes, when they kick in, when the money would be due, what interest rates look like. It's really getting the child to understand, which, they're just starting their financial journey. But what am I doing today that really could impact me in, well, it could be 1 year, but 4 years, 5 years.
Yes.
Like, I need to know that. Let's talk about finding scholarships. Obviously, everyone is trying to find someone else that can help invest in their education and pay for it. And it's hard for everybody, but certainly for that middle class, I feel like a lot of parents make too much, or they think they make too much. And then a lot of people, they might make enough money to live, but they still might not have an extra $50K laying around a year to send their kid to college. It really kind of puts you in that middle gray area.
So a couple very quick points. Number one, we always, again, go back to the FAFSA because the grant portion is really significant. From the schools, from the colleges, from the state, from the federal government as well.
Okay.
The FAFSA and the grants. But then we get to scholarships, right? The local community foundation or different businesses, people have these different things. There's tools out there that people have gone to and they go in and they fill it out, sort of aggregators of scholarships, which are fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but we always want to caution people, please be careful no matter which aggregator you use. If someone is then asking for money, probably walk away. That's the biggest thing with scholarships. The real scholarship providers, the most legitimate entities that will give a lot of money, they don't need your $20. They don't need your $10.
Yeah.
Do not be very, very, very cautious with that. But again, don't leave any area unturned. Local scholarships can really add up. They can be very important, and you're competing with less people than maybe the national scholarship for $50,000. You're competing with a lot of people on that one.
Okay, there we go. Also, what are some of the most common mistakes families make in this process?
Thinking that they're not going to get any aid, in almost all cases, that's wrong. People are surprised all the time. I'm not going to get aid. Skipping filing the FAFSA. Literally number one, the biggest mistake. People call us 2 years later, they skipped it for 2 years, the third year they did it, and they call us and say, why didn't I file? We're like, well.
That's a good question. Why didn't you file?
It's the perfect question.
Yeah.
So that really is the biggest mistake. And then the other one we'll just say is not doing the research on the front end. The information is out there where families can know ahead of time what it's really going to look like as far as out-of-pocket or loans. And we want people to know that information ASAP.
Are there, I know you did kind of touch on it earlier, but just some key deadlines that parents should keep in mind?
Absolutely. Once we get to October 1, for seniors in high school right now, the date is always October 1. So for the seniors right now in high school, it'll be October 1, coming up.
Right.
But October 1 is always the launch of the FAFSA for the upcoming year. So once October 1 hits, we want people to get it done. But also April 15 is the state priority filing deadline, so you don't miss out on state of Indiana aid.
Okay.
So we never want people to miss the April 15. And then the other key deadline is the deadline for your particular school, but that varies based on school. So make sure whichever schools you're looking at, you know what their deadline is, because it could be a lot sooner than April 15.
Yes. Is there such thing as too many schools someone should be applying to? Like, what's a good safe number? Because I know they always say you might have a reach school that you really want to go to, and maybe you get in, maybe you don't, and then you got a safety and yada yada yada. What's a good number?
So I'm not going to waffle on this because this provokes a lot of emotion sometimes. There are students and families that are like, one school, that's it, no matter what, we're not going to look at anybody else, and that's a student and family decision. I think one is too few, right? And then sometimes people are like, well, 20 isn't enough. I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to go crazy. And sometimes I think you can get overwhelmed with too many options.
Yes.
I really think that you should try to hone it down into 3, 4, 5, 6, a public, private, look at the options, something manageable.
Yeah.
Once you get above that, I think it's a little bit unwieldy. It's a little too much. So I think it's north of 1, but there's a lot of families that say, no, I'm only looking at 1, there's only 1, and that's how it's going to be, and that's a family decision.
I get that, because I'm thinking if you do 10, I mean, you're looking at 10 different deadlines, 10 different groups of paperwork, 10 different, and to your point, you want to really try to invest in a handful or 1, 2, or 3 where you can see what kind of scholarships, what paperwork is out there, what do you need to apply for. You kind of got to hone in on it and just do your best to find what you can.
Yes, it can get overwhelming, but there's passion on both sides of the discussion.
Yes.
There are families that are not going to go to 2, they're only going to look at 1, and there are families that feel 10 is too limiting.
Okay.
And that's their choice.
That's their choice. He is just here to give you the information. Obviously, you're going to do your own homework too and invest in your child the best way that you feel like you should as a parent. This is a chunk of a conversation, certainly, that I know gets bigger and bigger. We have more info on INvestEd, which is where Mr. Bill works. You can just head to WTHR.com/Parent Squad so we can stay on top of this journey. So stay with us.